So we're entering into 2020, and I think it's gonna be a pretty big year. I'm the only person who thinks that. No one else has predicted it. Obviously, politically, it's an attempt, it's a chance to either replace Donald Trump or ensure 4 more years of Donald Trump. It's gonna be huge for politics, also hopefully huge for this show. And so as we enter into it, I posted on Twitter asking for any of your questions about the state of American politics, the state of the show, just so that we can sort of take stock of where we're at and where we're gonna be going. I wanna know what some of your concerns are. And so I got a lot of good tweets. I wish I could get to all of them, but there are a ton that I'm gonna try to fit in here. So with that, let's start off with the first, sent in by @Naja who said, if Biden wins the nomination, Cenk and other progressives lose their primaries, what should be the action plan for progressives post-election? Will sticking to the Democratic Party setup in that bleak scenario still viable in your opinion? Well, look, looking forward to the election, obviously I can only speak for myself. I don't know how everyone is going to act. But what I can say is that looking back at the evidence I have about the most recent election, I know how my progressive role models will act. If I look back to 2016, where I supported Bernie Sanders in the primary and then Hillary Clinton in the general election, all of the people I respect most in politics did that exact same thing. That was what Bernie Sanders did. That's what AOC did. That's what Elizabeth Warren did. That's what all of them did. I mean, even, look, if you're a big Tulsi Gabbard fan, that's who Tulsi Gabbard supported, Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. That's what progressives did. Now, there are others who didn't, and that's perfectly fine. We'll have that debate or whatever. But I am not going to support Donald Trump getting reelected. And I'm not gonna do it explicitly or sort of as a side effect of whatever I do. We can disagree on that, and you can make the case to me, to Bernie Sanders, to AOC, to all of the others. We have a year to debate that. But the last thing I wanna see happen is 4 more years of Donald Trump. And I'm sure Bernie Sanders would certainly agree with that. So it would be bleak. I agree with the person who sent in the question, but I'm trying to limit how bleak it might be. And also, I still don't think that Biden is gonna win the nomination. So I'm not too incredibly worried about that. Next question from @ShaneKilling says, will we ever get a game show that has spouses? That way we can meet the extended TYT family. What I would give to watch a newlyweds show where John, Anna, Brett go against JR, Cenk, Malcolm. TYT Family Feud, TYT Newlyweds. Shane, that is a very good idea, I think, actually. The issue is that it really depends on the spouses. And I like the idea of TYT Family Feud a lot more than the Newlywed Game, because you're really setting yourself up for a potentially disastrous outcome with the Newlywed Game. If you do really badly, then that's a defeat that lasts after the taping. So I don't want that. But Family Feud might be a lot of fun. It really depends on how eager some people, spouses are to come on. Like, could Anna convince Christian? Probably, he's a really charismatic social guy, but he doesn't do tons of video. My wife is actually an actress, but she doesn't do a ton of like politics stuff really, so I could try. But I know Brett's wife does not really like being on camera. So we could potentially set that up. Maybe that could be a mid-year version of Hostmates or something. Next one's from Uniquely Kieran, who says, my questions are, 1, how were you able to transition to a career in journalism? I'm thinking about making a switch to journalism myself, but I'm trying to figure out the best way to do so. Go back to grad school or try volunteering someplace, both? So Kieran, my overall advice would be talk to literally anyone else in journalism rather than me, because I don't even explicitly consider myself to be a journalist. I write op-eds, I do political analysis and commentary, but I'm not a journalist. I'm not generally doing investigative reporting or anything like that. And I did not get into this in anything approaching the normal way. I was in grad school, but not for journalism. I was pursuing a political psychology degree, and I just happened to be a big fan of the show, and so I sent in videos and they eventually offered a job. That is not a reliable way to enter into the career field, though, I will say. I don't know a ton. I would say Anna has actually taught journalism, so she might be a better source to go to for that. But I would say, I think that we do need journalists who take it seriously, who have a strong sense of journalistic ethics. And so if you wanted to get a degree in journalism, that certainly seems like a good way to start. Where you go from that in terms of careers, I would turn to your journalism professors probably, people who know a bit more. But I would not pattern yourself after me. It is not a reliable way to get into this thing. Jared Kiger says, how excited are you for Star Trek Picard? I am very excited. I haven't been thinking about it a ton because Star Wars and all that recently. But I love that they brought it back. I never would have predicted that they would. I love that they're packing it with cameos, and so very excited, especially that I believe they've already okayed it for a second season when the first season doesn't even come out for months. So that's something to look forward to. Diamond Dog says, does TYT have a contingency if Cenk wins his election? I can't imagine you doing both TDR and TYT every day. So the plan right now is as he's campaigning and everything, I'm filling in on TYT, which I think is very reasonable because I've been doing that for literally years. That's always what it's been. I just assumed that if he wins his election, I would carry on doing that. But the reaction from so many people saying that that seems crazy makes me a little bit worried. I still plan on doing it, and I'm gonna do it. I just might have to start like taking naps in the middle of the day or something. But there are plenty of people in news who do multiple shows, right? Wolf Blitzer's in that building all day long, I feel like. Chuck Todd doesn't have a home. He lives in a closet in the building. So if they can do it, I can do it too. I just might have to start eating healthy or sleeping or something. Let's see. Diamond Dog had another question, said, given what we know about both the mainstream media's treatment of progressives and the progressive side's habit of eating their own, will there be more of a concerted effort made by independent progressive outfits in 2020 to amplify each other's messages for a common cause? I mean, I guess there's a lot of media and I can't like actively follow all of it. I can't even peripherally follow all of it, but I actually feel like there's quite a bit of this now, actually. I think, we have people on the Damage Report who do other shows, both inside and outside of the TYT network. Like, Michael Brooks is doing stuff on our show quite a bit. We have a good relationship with the Majority Report and all of that. I definitely think that people could try to find new ways to collaborate. I think that TYT, I mean, we've said for a long time that we consider ourselves home of progressives. We want to integrate as many progressive voices as possible and help to boost them. Historically, obviously, a lot of these voices are, knowingly or not, sort of patterning themselves on the TYT model. Like the show that Cenk made influenced a ton of YouTube shows afterward. I think for some outlets, like the struggle just to stay afloat in terms of money, it's so difficult. And like the algorithm constantly changes, you're constantly worried that this thing could fall out from under you. So a lot of people are probably just worried about staying in this thing. Hopefully if things become more solid for more outlets, then there can be more of that cross-pollination. I think that would be a great thing for the movement because you definitely see that on the right. Neil Moffat says, over here in Scotland, it is looking more and more likely we will leave the UK. Do you think that America will ever separate into smaller countries with how divided it is? I certainly hope not. There are always multiple efforts for different states to break off and stuff like that. There are cases to be made. I think that that's too much. I think that if we work hard, if we fight hard, if we persuade people of our values, then we can move the entire country in the right direction and we don't need to split California off to one thing and then the Deep South to another or something like that. That seems pretty disastrous. Someone named Ivory said, do you think that the right wing will become more violent as they claim when progressives start winning? I hope not. I certainly am worried about that. I mean, we've seen a good amount of right-wing domestic terrorism over the past few years. There are a lot of, we've covered on the Damage Report, like people who are fans of Trump saying that if he gets impeached, that they're gonna whip out their Magnum or something like that. I hope that a lot of it is just talk, just bravado. There's always a ton of that on the right. But I am worried about extremist violence. I think that if Donald Trump loses in 2020, that is gonna be a very tense situation. The aftermath of it is gonna be very tense. I hate even putting that out there, but I've been given a lot of reason over the past few years to believe that. Maya says, what are your goals for the show in the next year and next decade? That's difficult, and that's something that I've been thinking a lot about. I plan on meeting with my awesome team because things have been going really well. Don't get me wrong, the past couple of months have been by far the best months ever at the Damage Report. I mean, things have been going really well. Not in the country, but in the show, and that's what's really important. In terms of what we want to do, the goal was always, like, what if MSNBC actually wanted to have a real progressive show and they had the resources and the talent and the time and the attention and all of that? And obviously we don't actually have those resources, but that's what I've been trying to accomplish. And it's a lot of work, obviously. I've been filling in a lot on the main show. There's not as much time to brainstorm as I'd like, but I do want feedback. If you have ideas of things that you think that either this show or all progressive independent media is missing, ways to reformulate as we move into this election season, I do want to hear it, and I do plan to come out with some new ideas in the near future. Ashley McKinstry says, would you or any of your wonderful weekly co-hosts consider running for office? I can't speak for my wonderful weekly co-hosts. I think that they would all be awesome if they pursued political office. I can say that I love the idea of having a voice like in the House or something like that. And I despise the idea of running for it. I think elections are horrible. I think that until we get money out of politics, it's just terrible. Like the amount that you have to do to just try to get money to come in. Like I feel like it should just be, a contest of ideas. And unfortunately, a lot of it is not like that. Now, things are changing. There have been candidacies in the past few years that have shown a different path. But right now, it is just, it's dirty and I can't imagine it. But things could change. You never know. Maybe in a few years. Ray Samuelson had perhaps the most interesting question: who will be the Republican nominee in 2024? I mean, that is really the question. I mean, we're like forgetting 2020. Trump wins, Trump doesn't win. Where does the Republican Party go after that? That is really the question. I mean, I hope the answer is not Donald Trump. I also hope it's not Donald Trump Jr., but you never know. I mean, maybe it will be a thing where after Trump is gone, that's all the Republican Party has is devotion to this family. That could be it. We've had dynasties before in this country. I don't know, maybe Ted Cruz is waiting in the wings. There's a lot of people who are just keeping their head down until Trump is gone. Then they think, you know what, this isn't the Republican Party that I wanted necessarily in some ways, but I'm gonna take control of it once the time is right. And I don't know what's gonna be left once we finally get to that point. And final question, the Stone Buddhist says, what was the one moment or story that restored at least some of your faith in humanity? This one is actually kind of easy, and not because there weren't a lot. There were a number. But honestly, and I don't want to be sappy or whatever, but it does play into the most important issue for me. Like the work of Greta has been like the story. Her speech in Europe, where she was like in tears, like assailing world leaders for their lack of action. Like that's not a happy story, but I am so happy to see people addressing that issue in that way. Like I try not to lie or deceive the audience in any way. I'm pretty pessimistic about this issue and about the willingness of America and world leaders in other countries to actually address it. But I am at least like, I'm heartened or emboldened to know that we're not gonna go quietly into this disaster, that there will be an effort, there will be passion, there will be strike back against this apathy towards our own destruction. And so hopefully things progress a lot more in the next couple of years in the right direction, but at least for now, I mean, and look, there's a lot of other, the Sunrise Movement is awesome, there's a lot of other great activists in this area. I don't want to solely focus on her, but seeing that thing rise this year, in addition to like AOC and the Green New Deal, like that has been the thing that has given me the most hope so far this year. So anyway, that's the questions. Thank you so much to everybody who sent them in. I don't know about you, but I am excited for 2020. Obviously a bit nervous too. God only knows what will happen. But we do have big things planned. I hope that it'll be a good year for the show and more importantly for the country. And I wanna thank you for joining us on this episode. It is a new year and we're gonna be coming back tomorrow with more live content. Hopefully refreshed and ready to engage in this thing once again. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.